When I told my mom that my brother hit me, she said, "What did you do to provoke him? He's never been violent with anyone else." "Are you serious right now?" I asked. "Your son just punched me in the face and you want to know what I did?" Mom kept spreading frosting on my little sister Krista's birthday cake like we were discussing today's traffic. "I'm asking because I know my son," she said calmly. "And I know you. You've always known how to push his buttons." I laughed this sharp, disbelieving sound that didn't even feel like it came from me. "He punched me because I told him to turn himself in for what he did to Nora." Her hand stopped moving. "Excuse me?" "Nora, the girl down the street, the one he was dating." I pulled out my phone and found the recording I had when I confronted Brad. "You want to know who your son really is? Listen." I hit play, and Brad's voice filled the kitchen. She kept saying she wasn't in the mood, but I knew she didn't mean it. We were dating. It's not like I held a gun to her head. She just laid there and cried the whole time, but she didn't leave, did she? It's not my fault she couldn't handle it. I waited for something to change in my mother's face. Shock, horror, disgust, anything. But when the recording ended, all she said was, "Where did you get this?" "I just told you. I recorded him when I..." She snatched the phone out of my hand before I could react. "Mom, don't..." But she was already swiping, already deleting it. "This family does not need your drama," she said, shoving the phone into my chest. "Not today." And just like the recording was gone. And now she was heading for the stairs to tell Brad everything. But she's not getting upstairs before I get answers. She deleted my recording, but she can't delete what she already knows. The way her face didn't change when she heard Brad's confession. That wasn't shock. That was recognition. She's been covering for him, and I'm about to find out for how long. Mom thinks she just ended this conversation. She doesn't realize I'm just getting started. I'm going to make her admit what she really knew and when she knew it. I'll tell you what she says. I grabbed Mom's arm before she could reach the stairs. "You knew about Nora, didn't you?" She tried to pull away, but I held on. "Let go of me, Leslie. Answer the question first." "I don't know what you're talking about." But I saw it. This tiny flicker across her face just for a second, before she smoothed it back into that calm, unbothered mask she always wore. That flicker told me everything. "How long have you known?" I asked. She yanked her arm free and turned to face me fully. "Nora came to me 3 weeks ago," she said, and my stomach dropped straight through the floor. She showed up at the door crying, saying Brad hurt her. And do you know what I told her? I told her that what happens between a boyfriend and girlfriend in private is not something she gets to call assault, just because she felt different about it the next morning. "So you heard a 17-year-old girl say your son hurt her and your first instinct was to defend him?" My first instinct was to get the facts. And the facts are that Nora regrets a decision she made and now she wants to call it something it wasn't. RP doesn't exist in a relationship, Leslie. She gave consent the moment she agreed to be with him. That's not how consent works, and you know it. You can be dating someone and still say no. You can be married to someone and still say no. She told me she kept saying she wasn't in the mood and he ignored her. She told me she cried the entire time and he didn't stop. That's not a misunderstanding. That's assault. She never said the word stop. She admitted that to me herself. Because she was frozen. Because she was terrified. Because the boy she trusted had her pinned in his car and she didn't know what to do. Have you ever been so scared you couldn't move? Have you ever had someone you loved turn into someone you didn't recognize? That's what happened to her. What happened to her is that she made a choice and regretted it. I'm not going to let her ruin my son's future over a bad decision. His future? What about her future? What about the fact that she can't sleep anymore? What about the fact that she flinches every time she sees a car like Brad's? What about the fact that she came to me shaking so hard she could barely speak because she thought no one would believe her? And she was right. She came to you first, and you proved her right. Mom's expression didn't change. I handled the situation appropriately. I talked to Brad. I told him to stay away from her. I told him the relationship was over and he needed to move on. And he listened. He's been focused on school, on his future, on getting into a good college. He made a mistake with that girl, and he's moved past it. A mistake? You're calling RP a mistake? Like he forgot to turn in his homework? Like he missed curfew? I'm calling it what it was. A miscommunication between two teenagers who shouldn't have been alone together in the first place. And I handled it. I spoke to Nora's mother last week, woman to woman. I explained that teenage girls sometimes get confused about these things, that it would be best for everyone if this whole situation just went away quietly. Her mother agreed. You went behind Nora's back and convinced her mother to silence her? Do you hear yourself right now? Do you hear how insane that sounds? I hear a mother protecting her family. Something you wouldn't understand since you walked out on yours. I walked out because of exactly this. Because you've spent your entire life making excuses for Brad. Because every time he did something wrong, you found a way to blame someone else. When he broke my arm playing too rough, you said I was being dramatic. When he stole money from my room, you said I must have lost it. When he told the whole school I was a slut, you said I should stop being so sensitive. And now he's graduated from tormenting me to assaulting girls, and you're still standing there telling me it's not his fault. Your brother has never... Don't. Don't you dare tell me who my brother is. I lived with him for 18 years. I know exactly what he's capable of. The only difference between what he did to me and what he did to Nora is that Nora has proof. I have a recording of him admitting it. Or I did, until you deleted it. I deleted a recording that was obtained illegally and would have been inadmissible anyway. You're not a lawyer, Leslie. You're a 20-year-old who thinks she can waltz back into this family and blow everything up because she's jealous of her brother. Jealous? You think I'm jealous of Brad? I'm trying to make sure he faces consequences for once in his life. I'm trying to make sure Nora gets some kind of justice. And I'm trying to make sure Krista doesn't grow up thinking this is normal. Because if she watches you protect Brad after what he did, she's going to learn that boys can do whatever they want, and girls just have to deal with it. Is that what you want to teach her? Don't bring Krista into this. She's already in this. She lives in this house. She sees how you treat Brad like he can do no wrong, and how you treat me like everything I say is a lie. What do you think that's teaching her? Mom stepped closer and her voice dropped. I've already told Aunt Ruth and Uncle Jim that you've been struggling lately. Mental health issues. A tendency to make up stories for attention. So if you're thinking about saying anything to anyone at Krista's party or anywhere else, just know that I've laid the groundwork. No one will believe you. She had been planning this, building a case against me before I even walked through the door. You've been telling people I'm crazy. I've been preparing for exactly this. I know you, Leslie. I knew you'd try something. You've always wanted to tear Brad down. So I made sure that whatever you said, people would see it for what it is. A desperate cry for attention from a girl who couldn't handle not being the favorite. I was never trying to be the favorite. I was trying to survive, and the fact that you can't tell the difference says everything about you. What it says is that I'm a mother who protects her children. All of them. Even the one who keeps trying to destroy this family. You're not protecting Krista. You're protecting Brad from Krista ever finding out who he really is. And if you think I'm going to let her grow up in this house without knowing the truth, if you say one word to Krista, you will never see her again. There it was. The real threat. You would do that. You would keep me from my own sister to protect him. I would keep a troubled young woman away from my 11-year-old daughter. And any court would agree with me once they hear about your behavior. The accusations, the illegal recording, the harassment. I'll get a restraining order if I have to. You're bluffing. Try me. She reached up and patted my cheek, the one with the bruise. She patted it hard enough that I winced, hard enough that I knew it wasn't an accident. Clean yourself up, she said. The guests arrive in an hour. Then she walked past me toward the stairs like the conversation was over. But she forgot about the one person in this house she doesn't control. Dad is in the garage right now with no idea his wife has been covering up his son's crimes, manipulating Nora's mother, and building a case to make me look insane. Mom thinks she has all the power here. She's about to find out Dad has been watching Brad longer than any of us. I'm going to show him this bruise, the one his son gave me and his wife just made worse, and I'm going to tell him everything. We'll see whose side he picks. I found Dad in the garage hunched over his workbench organizing his socket wrenches like the world wasn't falling apart inside his own house. He looked up when I walked in, and I watched his face change the moment he saw me. His eyes went straight to my cheek and his whole body went rigid. Who did that to you? He asked, and his voice was quiet in that dangerous way I'd only heard a few times in my life. Brad, I said. About an hour ago. Right before I played him a recording of himself admitting to assaulting Nora, and right before Mom deleted it and told me I was never allowed to see Krista again if I said anything. Dad set down the wrench slowly. Start from the beginning. So I did. I told him everything. I told him about Nora showing up at my apartment 2 weeks ago, shaking so hard she could barely get the words out. I told him how she said she and Brad had been dating for 3 months, and one night they were parked in his car and she kept telling him she wasn't in the mood, and he kept pushing and pushing until he wasn't pushing anymore, he was just taking. I told him she said she cried the entire time and he didn't stop, that she felt like she left her body and watched it happen from somewhere far away, that when it was over he drove her home and acted like nothing happened, and she sat in her shower for 2 hours trying to scrub the feeling of him off her skin. I told him I recorded Brad 3 days ago when I confronted him in his car, that I got him to talk about it, that he said she kept saying she wasn't in the mood but he knew she didn't mean it, that she just laid there and cried but she didn't leave. So that's on her, that it's not his fault she couldn't handle it. I told him Mom heard that recording and didn't even flinch. I told him Mom knew about Nora for 3 weeks because Nora came to her first, and Mom sent her away saying RP doesn't exist in a relationship. I told him Mom went to Nora's mother and convinced her to keep quiet. I told him Mom has been telling Aunt Ruth and Uncle Jim that I have mental health issues so no one would believe me if I spoke up. I told him Mom threatened to get a restraining order and make sure I never saw Krista again. And then I told him that after all of that, after I stood in that kitchen and begged my own mother to care about what her son did to a 17-year-old girl, she slapped me right on top of the bruise Brad left. Dad didn't say anything for a long time. He just stood there with his hands braced against the workbench and his head down like he was trying to hold himself together. When he finally looked up, his eyes were wet. I knew, he said, and those 2 words hit me harder than anything Mom had said all day. What do you mean you knew? I knew something was wrong with him. I've known for years. I couldn't prove it. I didn't have anything concrete, just patterns, just this feeling that something wasn't right. He pulled out his phone and started scrolling. 3 years ago, Brad told your mother he was staying at Ian's house for the weekend. I ran into Ian's dad at the hardware store that same weekend, and he mentioned Ian was at his grandparents' place in Ohio. So Brad lied about where he was. I wrote it down. He kept scrolling. 2 years ago, I found a girl's necklace in his car. When I asked him about it, he said a friend left it there. I asked which friend. He said he couldn't remember. I wrote that down too. More scrolling. 18 months ago, his ex-girlfriend Macy's parents called the house asking if we knew why Macy was so upset. They said she wouldn't stop crying and she wouldn't tell them what happened, but she kept saying Brad's name. Your mother told them Macy was probably just sad about the breakup. I didn't buy it. I wrote it down. He turned the phone toward me and I saw pages and pages of notes. Dates, times, incidents, lies Brad told and got caught in, girls who seemed upset after being around him. Times his story didn't add up. Times Dad asked questions and got answers that didn't make sense. Why didn't you do anything? I asked, and I didn't mean for it to sound like an accusation, but it came out that way. Because your mother always had an explanation. Because Brad always had an excuse. Because I didn't have proof of anything except that my son was a liar, and being a liar isn't a crime. I kept telling myself I was being paranoid. I kept telling myself that if something really bad was happening, someone would say something. A girl would come forward, a parent would call, something. And then when nothing happened, I convinced myself I was wrong. He put the phone down. But I wasn't wrong, was I? No, I said. You weren't. Nora, that's the girl? Yeah, she's 17. She's a junior at Brad's school, and she's terrified because she thinks no one will believe her. I believe her. Dad said it like a statement of fact, like there was no other option. I believe her and I believe you, and I'm done pretending I don't see what's right in front of my face. What do you need me to do? I almost started crying right there. After everything that happened in that kitchen, after Mom deleted my recording and threatened to take Krista away and slapped me across the face, after years of feeling like I was crazy for seeing what no one else would admit, my father was standing in front of me asking what he could do to help. We need to go to the police, I said. Nora gave a statement. Not yet. She's scared. She thinks they won't believe her because she was dating him, because she didn't fight back, because she didn't scream. She thinks they'll say it's her word against his. It's not just her word anymore. She has you. She has me. She has 3 years of documentation showing a pattern of behavior. And she has the fact that your mother has been actively covering this up, which means your mother knows there's something worth covering up. He grabbed his keys off the workbench. Call Nora. Tell her we're picking her up. Tell her she's not alone anymore. I called Nora and she answered on the first ring like she'd been waiting by the phone. When I told her my dad believed her and wanted to take her to the police station, she started crying. Not scared crying like before, relieved crying, like someone had finally thrown her a rope after she'd been drowning for weeks. We picked her up from her house. She climbed into the back seat of Dad's truck and she looked so small. This girl who was almost the same age as Brad but seemed so much younger, so much more fragile. Dad looked at her in the rearview mirror and said, I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm sorry my son did this, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure he's held accountable. Nora nodded but didn't say anything. The drive to the police station took 15 minutes and none of us spoke. When we got there, Dad parked the truck and turned to look at both of us. Whatever happens in there, we're in this together. If they don't take it seriously, we escalate. If they try to dismiss it, we push back. Nora, you tell them exactly what happened. Don't downplay it. Don't minimize it. Don't let them make you feel like any part of this was your fault. Because it wasn't. Nora took a shaky breath. Okay. We walked into that police station together, the three of us. And for the first time since Nora showed up at my apartment, I felt like maybe we actually had a chance. Dad had 3 years of notes. Nora had her testimony. And we had each other. Mom and Brad are sitting at home right now thinking they've already won. They think I'm alone and hysterical and easy to discredit. They have no idea Dad just chose his daughters over his son. They have no idea we just walked into a police station with documentation going back 3 years. The war just started and they don't even know it yet. I'll update you when we find out if the police will press charges. The police station smelled like stale coffee and floor cleaner and broken promises. We sat in a small room while a detective named Robinson took Nora's statement. She told him everything. She told him about dating Brad for 3 months, about how he was charming at first, how he made her feel special, how he told her she was different from other girls. She told him about the night in the car, how she kept saying she wasn't in the mood, how he kept pushing, how she froze when he climbed on top of her, how she cried the entire time and he didn't stop. She told him about sitting in her shower afterward trying to scrub the feeling off her skin. She told him about going to my mother for help and being told that RP doesn't exist in a relationship. She told him about her own mother being convinced to keep quiet. She told him everything, and Detective Robinson wrote it all down with this expression on his face that I couldn't read. I honestly was not sure how this would turn out. When Nora finished, he closed his notebook and leaned back in his chair. Miss Green, I want to make sure I understand the situation correctly. You and Brad were in a relationship at the time of the incident? Yes, Nora said quietly. And during the incident, you said you told him you weren't in the mood. Did you at any point say the word no? Did you say stop? Did you tell him explicitly that you did not want to have sex? Nora's face crumpled. I kept saying I wasn't in the mood. I thought that was clear. I thought, but you didn't say no? I was scared. I froze. I couldn't. And you didn't attempt to leave the vehicle? You didn't push him away? You didn't scream or call for help? I couldn't move. I was... Miss Green, I'm not trying to minimize what you experienced. I'm trying to explain to you what we're working with here. You were in a relationship with this young man. You were alone with him voluntarily. You did not explicitly say no or stop. You did not attempt to physically resist. There are no witnesses. There is no physical evidence. There is no recording. He looked at me when he said that last part, and I felt sick. The recording existed, I said. His mother deleted it off my phone. Which means it's gone. And even if it weren't, a recording obtained without consent in a one-party consent state? This is a one-party consent state. I looked it up. I only needed my own consent to record. You weren't part of the conversation you recorded. You recorded your brother talking to himself, essentially. That's murky legal territory at best. And regardless, the recording doesn't exist anymore, so it's irrelevant. Dad leaned forward. I have 3 years of documentation. Notes on my son's behavior, patterns, lies, other girls who were upset after being around him. Detective Robinson sighed. Mr. Holloway, I appreciate that you're trying to help. But notes about your son lying about his whereabouts or a girl being upset after a breakup don't constitute evidence of sexual assault. They're not even admissible. They're just observations. So what are you saying? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. I'm saying that without physical evidence, without witnesses, without a recording, without an explicit verbal refusal, this case would be almost impossible to prosecute. The DA wouldn't touch it. A defense attorney would tear it apart, and Miss Green would have to sit in a courtroom and be cross-examined about every detail of her sexual history, her relationship with Brad, her behavior that night. She would be asked why she didn't say no, why she didn't fight, why she didn't scream, why she got in the car in the first place, why she kept dating him afterward. Is that something you want to put her through, knowing the likely outcome is that he walks anyway? Nora was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. I reached over and took her hand. So that's it, I said. He just gets away with it. I'm not saying nothing happened. I'm saying I can't prove something happened. There's a difference. And I'm sorry, I really am, but my hands are tied here. We left the police station in silence. Dad held the door for Nora and she walked through it like a ghost, like someone had reached inside her and scooped out everything that made her a person. I knew that feeling. I'd felt it in that kitchen when Mom deleted my recording. This sense that nothing you do matters, that the people who hurt you will always win, that the system is designed to protect them and punish you for trying to fight back. The drive home was 20 minutes of nothing. No one spoke. The radio was off. Just the sound of the engine and the road and 3 people trying to process the fact that we'd done everything right and it still wasn't enough. We dropped Nora off at her house and she thanked us, which somehow made it worse. She thanked us for believing her. She thanked us for trying. Like she'd already accepted that trying was all anyone would ever do. Like she'd already made peace with the fact that Brad would never face consequences for what he did to her. Dad pulled into our driveway, and that's when I saw him. Brad was sitting on the front porch steps with his arms crossed and this smirk on his face that made me want to scream. He knew. The way he was looking at us, the satisfaction radiating off him like heat. He knew exactly where we'd been and exactly how it had gone. Mom must have told him everything. "Go inside," Dad said to me. "I'll handle this." "No." I opened the car door. "I'm done letting other people handle things for me." I walked up the driveway and Brad stood up slowly, lazily, like he had all the time in the world. Like he'd already won and he was just savoring the victory. "How was the police station?" he asked. "Did they laugh you out of there or did they at least pretend to take notes first?" "You think this is funny?" "I think it's hilarious. I think you dragged that pathetic girl down to the cops thinking you were going to be some kind of hero, and they told you exactly what I could have told you from the beginning. Nobody cares. Nobody believes her. And nobody is going to do anything to me because I didn't do anything wrong." "You warped her." "I had sex with my girlfriend. There's a difference. But you wouldn't know that because you've never had a boyfriend, have you, Leslie? You've never had anyone want you like that. So you don't understand how it works. Sometimes girls say they're not in the mood and they don't mean it. Sometimes you have to push a little. That's just how it is." "That's not how it is. That's assault. And the fact that you can stand there and say that with a straight face tells me exactly what kind of person you are." Brad stepped closer. "You want to know what kind of person I am? I'm the kind of person who wins. I'm the kind of person who always lands on his feet. And I'm the kind of person who doesn't let his jealous, pathetic, attention-seeking sister ruin his life just because she can't stand that everyone likes me better than her. This isn't about me. This is about Nora. Nora is handled. Mom made sure of that. Her own mother doesn't even believe her anymore. She's got nobody. And after today, neither do you." He glanced toward the house, toward the window where I could see the shadow of someone moving. Krista's room. "You know what I'm going to do?" Brad said, his voice dropping to something almost conversational. "I'm going to make sure Krista knows exactly who you are. I'm going to tell her you're jealous of me. I'm going to tell her you've always been jealous, that you make up lies to get attention, that you left the family because you couldn't handle not being the favorite. I'm going to tell her you tried to destroy my life over some girl I dated, and that the police laughed you out of the station because everyone knows you're crazy. And you know what's going to happen? She's going to believe me. Because I'm here every day and you're not. Because Mom already told her you have mental problems. Because by the time I'm done, Krista is going to think you're the villain of this family and I'm the victim. And there's nothing you can do about it." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Not because he was threatening me. I'd been dealing with Brad's threats my whole life. But because he was right. Krista was 11 years old. She lived in this house with him and Mom every single day. She heard whatever they told her, believed whatever narrative they spun. And I was the sister who left, the sister who only showed up for birthdays, the sister who was easy to paint as unstable because I wasn't there to defend myself. Brad wasn't just threatening to hurt me. He was threatening to take the only person in this family I still loved and turn her into a weapon against me. He was threatening to poison my baby sister's mind until she hated me. And the worst part was, he could do it. He absolutely could do it. Mom would help him. She was probably already helping him. Every day I wasn't there was another day they could drip poison into Krista's ears. Another day they could rewrite history. Another day they could make me into the monster and Brad into the saint. "Stay away from Krista," I said, and my voice was shaking. "Or what?" Brad laughed. "You'll go to the police again? You'll make another recording? Face it, Leslie. You lost. You lost the second you walked out of this house 2 years ago. You gave up your seat at the table and now you don't get to complain about what's being served." He walked past me toward the house, bumping my shoulder hard enough that I stumbled. "Oh, and tell Dad his little notes aren't going to help either. Mom already knows about those. She's known for years. Why do you think she married him? He's useful and he's controllable, just like everyone else in this family." He went inside and slammed the door behind him. Dad was standing at the end of the driveway. He'd heard everything. I could see it on his face. This mixture of rage and helplessness and something else. Something that looked like shame. "He's going to turn Krista against me," I said. "I know." "The police aren't going to help. Mom has everyone convinced I'm crazy. And now he's going to use my own sister as a weapon." "I know. So what do we do?" Dad was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked at me with something hard in his eyes. Something I'd never seen before. "We stopped playing defense. Brad just told me he's going to make Krista hate me. He thinks he can use my baby sister as a weapon against me. He thinks the police failing means he's untouchable. But Brad has one weakness he's never been able to control: his temper. Dad's family is hosting a barbecue next weekend. Aunts, uncles, cousins, people who've only ever seen Brad's golden boy mask. All we need is the right trigger in front of the right audience. Brad thinks this is over. He has no idea I'm just setting the stage. I'll tell you the plan. It was simple. Dad's parents had been hosting a summer barbecue every year for as long as I could remember, and this year's was scheduled for the following Saturday. Aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends, everyone would be there. People who had only ever seen Brad's golden boy mask. People who thought he was charming and polite and destined for great things. People who had no idea what he was capable of because he'd never let them see it. Brad's temper is his weakness, Dad said. We were sitting in his truck in the parking lot of a grocery store 3 miles from the house because we couldn't risk Mom overhearing us. He's been able to control it in public because he's never been truly threatened in public. He's never had someone push back in front of people who matter to him. But if we can get him rattled enough, if we can make him feel cornered, he'll snap. He won't be able to help himself. And then what? I asked. Then everyone sees who he really is. Then it's not just Nora's word against his. It's a dozen witnesses watching him lose control, watching him say things he can't take back. What if he doesn't snap? What if he keeps it together? He won't. Not if Nora is there. I looked at Dad. You want to bring Nora to the barbecue? I want to invite her without telling Brad or your mother. I want her to walk through that gate, and I want to watch Brad's face when he sees her. He's been operating under the assumption that he's won, that Nora's been silenced, that there's nothing anyone can do to touch him. Seeing her there, in front of his whole family, will throw him completely off balance. And when Brad's off balance, he gets aggressive. He gets loud. He says things he shouldn't say. And if he hurts her? If he goes after her physically? He won't get the chance. I'll be watching him the whole time. Your uncles will be there. If he makes a move, we'll stop him. But I don't think he'll go for her. I think he'll go for you. That landed like a punch. Me? You're the one who's been pushing back. You're the one who recorded him, who went to the police, who refuses to shut up and go away. In Brad's mind, you're the threat. Nora is just the girl he hurt. You're the one trying to make him pay for it. If he's going to lose control, it's going to be directed at you. So I'm the bait. You're the trigger. There's a difference. I sat with that for a minute. The idea of standing in front of Brad at a family barbecue, deliberately provoking him, knowing he might take a swing at me, it wasn't exactly appealing. But then I thought about Nora's face when the detective told her there was nothing he could do. I thought about Krista growing up in that house with him, learning that boys like Brad always win. I thought about every girl he might hurt in the future if someone didn't stop him now. Okay, I said. Let's do it. We spent the next week preparing. Dad called Nora and explained the plan. She was terrified, but she agreed. She said she was tired of hiding, tired of feeling like she'd done something wrong, tired of watching Brad walk around like nothing happened. She said if there was even a chance this could work, she wanted to be part of it. I stayed at a motel because I couldn't stomach sleeping under the same roof as Mom and Brad. Dad told Mom I'd gone back to my apartment, that I'd given up, that the police situation had scared me off. Mom believed it because she wanted to believe it. She wanted to believe she'd won. The night before the barbecue, I snuck back to the house after dark. Dad had left the side door unlocked for me. I was planning to sleep in the guest room in the basement where no one would find me, get a few hours of rest before the biggest day of my life. But I never made it to the basement. I was creeping past Krista's room when the door opened and a small hand grabbed my wrist and pulled me inside. Krista's face was pale in the dim light from her nightlight. She looked terrified. "What are you doing here?" I whispered. "I heard you were coming back." I heard Dad on the phone. "Krista, you can't tell anyone I'm here. Not Mom, not Brad, no one. Do you understand?" "I won't, I promise. But Leslie, I have to tell you something." She was shaking. This 11-year-old girl standing in her pajamas with her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest, shaking like she'd seen a ghost. I knelt down so I was at her eye level. "What is it? What happened?" I heard Mom talking to Brad, in his room. She didn't know I was in the hallway. "What did she say?" Krista's eyes welled up with tears. She was telling him what to say. About Nora, about you. She said if anyone asks about Nora, he should deny everything. She said he should say Nora wanted it, that she's just embarrassed and making up stories. She said he should say you're jealous of him and you always have been. She said you're mentally unstable and you've been trying to destroy this family since you left. My stomach turned. I knew Mom had been building a narrative against me, but hearing it confirmed by my 11-year-old sister made it real in a way it hadn't been before. What else did she say? She said, Krista's voice broke. She said if anyone believes you, she'll make sure you never see me again. She said she'll tell everyone you're dangerous. She said she'll get a court order. She said... She couldn't finish. She was crying too hard. I pulled her into my arms and held her while she sobbed into my shoulder. This little girl who should have been worrying about 6th grade and sleepovers and which Taylor Swift song was her favorite. Instead, she was standing in the dark, shaking, because she'd heard her mother coaching her brother on how to cover up a rape. Krista, listen to me, I said softly. I need you to understand something. What Brad did to Nora was wrong. Really, really wrong. And what Mom is doing, helping him hide it, lying about it, threatening people who try to tell the truth, that's wrong too. Do you understand that? She nodded against my shoulder. I know it's wrong. I'm not stupid, Leslie. I hear things. I see things. I know Brad isn't the person Mom thinks he is. I pulled back to look at her face. What do you mean? He's mean to me when no one's watching. He calls me names. He takes my stuff and hides it and then acts like I lost it. One time he told me that if I ever told anyone the things he says to me, he'd make sure I regretted it. I thought... She wiped her nose. I thought it was just normal brother stuff. I thought that's how brothers are. But then I heard what he did to Nora, and I realized it's not normal. None of it is normal. My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. Brad had been tormenting Krista the same way he'd tormented me. The same patterns, the same cruelty, the same threats. And she'd been suffering in silence because she thought it was normal. Because no one had ever told her it wasn't. It's not normal, I said firmly. And it's not okay. And I'm going to make sure it stops. That's why I'm here. That's why Dad and I have a plan. What plan? I hesitated. Krista was 11. She shouldn't have to be part of this. But she was already part of it. She'd been part of it her whole life. She just hadn't known it until now. So I told her the entire plan. Krista was quiet for a moment. Then she looked up at me with something fierce in her eyes. Something that reminded me of myself at that age. I want to help. Krista, no, it's too dangerous. If Mom finds out you're involved... Mom already thinks I'm on her side. She doesn't pay attention to me. She never has. I can watch and listen and no one will notice because no one ever notices me. It broke my heart that she said it so matter-of-factly. Like being invisible in her own family was just a fact of life she'd accepted. You don't have to do anything, I said. Just knowing you believe me is enough. But I want to do something. I want Brad to get in trouble for once. I want Mom to stop protecting him. I want... Her voice cracked. I want to live in a house where I'm not scared all the time. I hugged her again, tighter this time. After tomorrow, you will. I promise. Dad and I are going to fix this. And no matter what happens, I'm not leaving you here. Not again. Never again. There was a soft knock on the door and we both froze. Then Dad's voice, barely above a whisper. It's me. I opened the door and Dad slipped inside. He looked at Krista, at her tear-stained face, at the way she was clinging to my hand. She knows, I said. She heard Mom coaching Brad. Dad knelt down next to us. Krista, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry you had to hear that. I'm sorry you've been living in this house with all of this happening around you, but I promise you'll be safe after this. Krista didn't ask how. She just trusted us enough to know we would make that happen no matter what. She started crying again, but this time it was different. This time it was relief. We sat there in the dark, the three of us, holding on to each other while Krista cried out years of fear and loneliness and confusion. And somewhere in that moment, something changed. We weren't just three people with a plan anymore. We were a family. A broken, battered, barely held together family, but a family nonetheless. Mom had Brad, but we had each other. And tomorrow, we were going to make sure the whole world saw the truth. Dad and I finalized the details after Krista fell asleep. Nora would arrive 30 minutes after the barbecue started, after Brad had a chance to relax, to let his guard down, to get comfortable. We'd position ourselves near the center of the yard where everyone could see. I would stay close to Brad, keep him engaged, make sure his attention was on me when Nora walked through the gate. And then we'd watch him self-destruct. We didn't need the recording anymore. We didn't need the police. We didn't need anyone to believe us. We just needed Brad's ego to do what it always did when it felt threatened. We needed him to explode. Are you going to leave Mom? Krista asked quietly. Dad didn't hesitate. Yes, after tomorrow. I'm going to file for divorce and I'm going to fight for custody of you. You're going to come live with me. And Leslie's going to be part of your life again. Every day. Not just on birthdays. I promise. The barbecue started at noon, and by 12:30 the backyard was full. Aunts and uncles milling around the grill, cousins chasing each other across the lawn, Grandma sitting in her folding chair holding court like she did every year. And Brad was right in the middle of it, charming everyone the way he always did. He was helping Grandpa flip burgers, laughing at Uncle Wade's bad jokes, ruffling the hair of our little cousins like he was the world's greatest big brother. Golden, untouchable, perfect. I stood near the fence with Dad, watching him work the crowd, and I felt sick. These people had no idea. They looked at Brad and saw a polite young man with a bright future. They didn't see the monster underneath. They didn't know about Nora. They didn't know about me. They didn't know about any of it because Brad had spent his entire life learning how to hide. Mom was watching me from across the yard. She'd been surprised to see me show up. Dad had told her I wasn't coming, that I'd gone back to my apartment with my tail between my legs. But here I was, and I could see her calculating, trying to figure out what I was planning. She started walking toward me, but Dad intercepted her, pulled her into a conversation with Aunt Bethany about something, kept her occupied. That was the plan. Keep Mom distracted until Nora arrived. Keep Brad comfortable until the trap was sprung. At exactly 12:45, the gate opened and Nora walked through. She was wearing a simple blue dress and her hair was pulled back and she looked terrified but determined. She'd told me on the phone that morning that she almost backed out a dozen times, that she'd thrown up twice before leaving her house, that she didn't know if she could do this. But she was here. She was standing in that backyard with her shoulders back and her chin up, and she was here. Brad didn't notice at first. He was too busy laughing at something our cousin said. But then Marcus's eyes drifted to the gate, and Brad followed his gaze, and I watched his whole body change. His smile vanished. His shoulders went rigid. His hands curled into fists at his sides. "What the hell is she doing here?" he said, loud enough that people nearby turned to look. I stepped forward. "I invited her." Brad's head snapped toward me. "You what?" "I invited her. She's a friend of the family. Or she was, before you assaulted her." The word landed like a bomb. Conversation stopped. People turned. Aunt Bethany's mouth fell open. Uncle Wade set down his beer, and Mom came pushing through the crowd with panic in her eyes. "Leslie, that's enough," Mom said sharply. "I don't know what you think you're doing, but this is not the time or the place." "When is the time and place, Mom? You've had 3 weeks to do something, and instead you've been covering for him. You told Nora that RP doesn't exist in relationships. You convinced her mother to keep quiet. You've been telling everyone I'm mentally ill so no one would believe me when I told the truth. So when exactly were you planning to hold your son accountable?" Mom's face went white. She looked around at the family members staring at her, at the judgment in their eyes, and I could see her scrambling to regain control. "Leslie has been struggling with some mental health issues," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "She's been making accusations that aren't based in reality. I've been trying to get her help, but she refuses to. I'm not mentally ill. I'm the only person in this family willing to say what everyone else is too scared to admit. Your son is a RPist." "That's a lie," Brad shouted. He was moving toward me now, his face red, his whole body vibrating with rage. "Nora's crazy. She's obsessed with me. She's been obsessed with me since we broke up, and now she's making up stories to ruin my life. Tell them, Nora. Tell them you're lying." Nora stepped forward. Her voice was shaking, but she didn't back down. "I'm not lying. You held me down in your car. I kept telling you I wasn't in the mood, and you didn't stop. I cried the entire time, and you didn't care. And when it was over, you drove me home like nothing happened. That's not what happened. We were dating. You wanted it just as much as I did." "I didn't want it. I told you I didn't want it. You just didn't listen. Because you didn't mean it. Girls say that all the time. It doesn't mean anything." The family was dead silent now. Everyone was staring at Brad, watching him dig his own grave one word at a time. Aunt Bethany had her hand over her mouth. Uncle Wade looked like he wanted to hit something. Grandma was gripping the arms of her chair so hard her knuckles were white. "Brad, stop talking," Mom said urgently. "Just stop talking right now." "No, I'm not going to let them stand here and lie about me. I didn't do anything wrong." He turned to the crowd, spreading his arms like he was appealing to a jury. "You're really going to believe her over me? You're going to believe my psycho sister and some girl I dated for 3 months over me? I'm your family. I'm blood. She's nobody." "She's a 17-year-old girl you assaulted," I said calmly. "And I have a recording of you admitting it." Brad's face flickered with something. Fear, maybe, or confusion. "You don't have anything," Mom deleted it. Mom deleted one copy. I had backups. I was bluffing. I didn't have backups. But Brad didn't know that, and the fear on his face right now was worth everything. You're lying, he said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. Am I? You want to find out? You want me to play it right now, in front of everyone? You want them to hear you say that she cried the whole time but she didn't leave, so that's on her? You want them to hear you say it's not your fault she couldn't handle it? I never said that. You said it to my face 3 weeks ago. You said she kept saying she wasn't in the mood, but you knew she didn't mean it. You said she just laid there and cried, but she didn't try to stop you, so that's not your problem. You said, shut up! Brad lunged at me. I saw it coming. Dad had warned me this would happen, and I ducked to the side just as his fist whistled past my face. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Someone screamed. Uncle Wade started forward, but Brad was already spinning back toward me, his face twisted with rage. You're going to believe her over me? He screamed at the family. She left. She abandoned us. She's been gone for 2 years, and now she shows up and you're all just going to take her side? This is my family. I'm the one who stayed. I'm the one who's been here. She doesn't get to come back and destroy everything. You destroyed it yourself, Dad said quietly. He'd moved to stand beside me, putting himself between Brad and Nora. You destroyed it the night you hurt that girl, and you've been destroying it every day since by lying about it. Dad, you can't seriously... I've been watching you for 3 years, Brad. I've been keeping notes. Every lie you told. Every girl who was upset after being around you. Every time your story didn't add up. I knew something was wrong with you. I just couldn't prove it until now. Brad's face crumpled. Dad, I'm your son. And Leslie's my daughter. And Krista's my daughter. And they're both terrified of you. What does that tell you about the kind of son you've been? It wasn't... Brad was spinning now, looking around at the faces of his family, searching for someone who would defend him, someone who would take his side. His eyes landed on Mom. Mom. Tell them. Tell them I didn't do anything wrong. Mom opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. For the first time in my life, I watched my mother not know what to say. The girl was his girlfriend, she finally managed. Whatever happened between them was a private matter. It shouldn't be. A private matter? Aunt Bethany's voice cut through like a knife. Linda, he just admitted he didn't stop when she said no. We all heard him. How is that a private matter? He didn't admit anything. He's upset. He's not thinking clearly. If everyone would just calm down. I'm perfectly calm, Uncle Wade said. And I heard exactly what he said. He said she kept saying she wasn't in the mood and he knew she didn't mean it. That's not a misunderstanding, Linda. That's assault. You don't understand. What don't I understand? Explain it to me. Explain how my nephew forcing himself on a crying girl is something other than what it sounds like. Mom had no answer. She stood there with her mouth open and nothing coming out, and I watched her world collapse in real time. Brad was crying now. Actually crying, tears streaming down his face, snot running from his nose. I didn't force her, he said, but his voice was weak, broken. She never said stop. I thought she wanted it. She told you she wasn't in the mood, Nora said. Her voice was stronger now, steadier. Like watching Brad fall apart was giving her strength. I told you over and over. And you ignored me. And you held me down. And you did it anyway. And I have to live with that for the rest of my life. So don't you dare stand there and cry like you're the victim. I didn't mean to... You didn't mean to what? Rappy me? Is that what you're trying to say? That you accidentally held me down and accidentally ignored me when I said no and accidentally kept going while I cried? How do you accidentally do that, Brad? Explain it to me. Explain it to all of us. Brad's face twisted. The tears stopped. Something ugly surfaced in his eyes. Something I recognized from years of living with him. The mask was slipping. The real Brad was coming out. You know what? Fine. You want me to say it? I'll say it. I didn't stop because I was tired of waiting. 3 months of her teasing me and then acting like I'm supposed to just... I earned it. She owed me. So yeah, I didn't stop when she said no. I didn't care if she said no. Is that what you wanted to hear? The silence that followed was absolute. No one moved. No one breathed. 12 witnesses stood frozen, staring at the boy who had just confessed to RP in front of his entire family. Brad's face changed. The rage drained out of it, replaced by something else. Horror. Realization. He looked around at the faces staring at him, Grandma's disgust, Uncle Wade's fury, Aunt Bethany's tears, his cousin's shock, and I watched him understand what he'd just done. Wait, he said. His voice was small now. terrified. I didn't mean. He took a step backward, then another. I didn't mean it like that. I was just angry. She was. He looked at Mom. Mom, tell them I didn't mean it. Mom said nothing. She was staring at her son like she'd never seen him before. Like the golden child she'd spent 17 years protecting had just revealed himself to be exactly what I'd always said he was. Mom. M-O-M. Say something. Mom opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Brad lunged, not at me this time, at Nora. He got 2 steps before Uncle Wade caught him around the waist and slammed him to the ground. Brad thrashed and screamed and sobbed while Uncle Wade pinned him down, while Aunt Bethany pulled Nora away from the chaos, while Grandma sat in her chair and wept, while Mom stood frozen like a statue watching her family shatter into a million pieces. Get off me! Get off me! This isn't fair! I didn't do anything wrong! She wanted it! Uncle Wade pressed him harder into the grass. Stop talking. Brad kept screaming, kept crying, kept saying it wasn't fair, that Nora was lying, that I had set him up, that everyone was against him. But no one was listening anymore. No one cared. The golden child was gone. All that was left was a 17-year-old boy sobbing in the dirt while his entire family watched him destroy himself. Brad just confessed in front of 12 witnesses. He screamed it. I forced her, and then tried to take it back, but it was too late. Everyone heard. Uncle Wade has him pinned on the ground and he's sobbing like a child. Mom tried to open her mouth to defend him, and the whole family just stared at her until she went quiet. Nora is shaking, but she's still standing, and Dad is walking toward Mom with a look on his face I've never seen before. This family is about to be over. You need to hear what happens next. Dad walked toward Mom while Uncle Wade kept Brad pinned to the ground. The whole family was watching. No one moved. No one spoke. Dad stopped in front of her and his voice was calm, steady, like he'd been rehearsing this moment for years. I'm filing for divorce, he said. And I'm filing for full custody of Krista. You can keep the house. You can keep Brad. But you're not keeping my daughters. Mom's mouth opened, but nothing came out. She looked around at the family members staring at her, at Aunt Bethany's disgust, at Uncle Wade's cold fury, at Grandma wiping tears from her face. Her whole world had collapsed in 10 minutes, and she didn't have a single word to defend herself. You can't, she finally whispered. You can't do this to me. I'm not doing anything to you. You did this to yourself the day you chose to protect him over everyone else. Dad turned away from her and looked at me, and for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I saw something like peace in his eyes. We were done.